Assalamu alaikum. If I sound like I'm muffling, it's because I've just had some treatment in my mouth. So I ask you to pray for shifa for me, inshallah. It's going to be tough to follow that last panel. I don't think I've got such celestial stories to tell, but incredible ideas that have been presented. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Riaz and Professor Sophie Gillett-Ray for putting this event together. Since this morning, it's been absolutely invigorating. Some of the thoughts that have been mentioned, some of the challenges that have been discussed, incredible. But also I'd like to thank also our esteemed leader from Cardiff, who just chaired the last session. The brother, he's been instrumental in supporting this initiative. Brother Salim Kidwai, may Allah bless you for supporting this initiative for such a long time. Let me crack on because I know time is short. I'm going to try to cram this in the next 15 minutes. This is a you're in a very exciting space. I just heard Brother Salim talking about a conversation that happened in 2001, and we had a similar conversation in London after 9/11 when we started to look at our mosques, our imams, our madrasas. Are they actually going to deliver for the 21st century? Are they going to deliver for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years, 100 years? Do we even see a vision for ourselves in this country until the day of judgment? Because if you do have a vision of your longevity in this society until the day of judgment, you start thinking in a very different way. I wrote my first book about mosque management in 2006, 2007. And then from that, I started to visit as many mosques every single weekend. Visit every single madrasa that was inside the mosque. And then speak to the imams inside the mosque. And I found the state of imams in the mosque, they were in some of the most deplorable conditions I've ever seen. Pay-wise, working condition-wise, no contracts, nothing. You know, when Theresa May talked about slave labor, I thought, was she talking about imams? She wasn't actually, but I felt in my heart that is a category that should be put in her mind. And I've met her a few times and she's aware of what's going on there. So I started to visit mosques, and this book that I wrote in 2006 has given me access to mosques around the world. And I wanted to share with you, Brother Dr. Musharraf was talking about standards. After working for 15 years in the mosque sector, last year for the first time we established the Beacon Mosque status. 5-star, 3-star, 4-star mosques. In London now we have 2 5-star and 1 4-star, 2 5-star and 1 4-star mosque. And last week we took delegations from Australia, Canada and Denmark to those mosques, and they're absolutely blown away. Besides leading Tarawih prayer and Salah, each mosque is running 40 to 50 programs every week from those centres, dealing with non-Muslims, Muslims, people of faith, no faith, homelessness, you name it, they're doing it. And it's amazing. And young people leading those initiatives. During my time when I was visiting mosques, I came across, I started to see the rise of the internet, and I established a project called Imams Online in 2011. I realized that young people, one of the biggest problems that young people were facing, they could not access the imam. They cannot talk to him. They cannot go and see him. The imam doesn't want to talk to them. The imam doesn't even have the vocabulary to talk to them. And guess where the young people were going? They were going online. And the imams that were online were being inundated by questions and comments, and they wanted to meet them, they wanted to talk to them. And I started to read the conversations that Imams started to show me. And it very much relates to what Sister Rihanna was saying and Sister Mariam was saying. The conversations are very visceral. They are very, very alive, deep, passionate, engaging conversations. And young people felt that they could not have these conversations in the mosque. So I started Imams Online, and unbelievable, the response. But then I was contacted by Facebook, contacted by Google, contacted by Twitter. And what they showed me completely blew my mind. You know, some of the figures I've heard about this morning, 10 students, 15 students, 100 students. These platforms are talking in the billions. They're talking about millions. You can have a music video released in the morning. Who's that guy with the ginger hair? What's his name?
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran. Came from your lips, not mine. Ed Sheeran can pack out Wembley Stadium 7 nights, 80,000 people, sell out that stadium in one day. He can put up a video, a music video, and his music videos will hit the population of Russia and America in one day. The power of social media. And the Imams that have harnessed this power are equally talking to that many people. When we talk, the title of this conference is about leadership and authority. Leadership brings its own influence and power and noise. Which Imams in the UK have that power and influence? Can you tell me? Most commentators, most policymakers, most politicians don't come and see how many people listening at Jummah prayer. They're looking at how many followers you got on Twitter, on Facebook. They have the matrix now, how many people are watching you, how many people are listening to you, how many people are engaging with you online. It's the online space that makes the difference now. I just worked for 3 years with the United Nations, and the United Nations enabled me with other international bodies to go and take some of the ideas that we were floating on my book, The Mosque Management Guide, for 3 years. And I've traveled from Sydney all the way to San Francisco. I visited nearly 40 cities, and I've seen it all from a layman's point of view. Dr. Siddiqui this morning said that 5,000 people in a small area, young men, have graduated from a Darul Uloom every year. This Darul Uloom in Tanzania graduates 1,000 people every year. 90% unemployed. 99% unemployable. They don't have the skills, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the capability, they don't have the flexibility to deal with the 21st century. And the Muslim community knows it, and the Muslim community is bypassing it. They are finding their own solutions. They're not waiting for Darul Uloom for solutions. The Muslim community is walking with its feet, desperately looking for solutions to their daily problems. I'm going to quickly touch upon three key issues that I think are important for the next 10 to 20 years. 2019 is too late now. Your syllabus, your cohort of graduates, undergraduates, all already there. I'm talking about what's coming 2030, 2040. Key decision makers, key policy makers, key innovators are thinking 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead, 30 years ahead. Okay, how are you thinking about the future? Because your audience may not be alive today. The audience that is coming, how are you going to deal with them? Okay, so the first issue, the key area that I think that you have to be aware of, and I'm going to pose questions. I don't think I have all the answers. I'm just going to pose questions. How are you going to lead within the mega global trends of the future? Do you know what the global mega trends are? Number 2, intersectionality. Sorry, not intersexuality, intersectionality. I can't say S's at the moment. Thank God. So the third thing is access, distinction, and value add. I was going to show a video of what the future may look like in 2030. Some of the problems that were talked about there are directly affecting Muslim populations. Directly affecting Muslim populations. Can you go back to, okay. I'm going to rush. Very important. Are we training our students for jobs and services and scenarios that don't exist today? So one of the Mufti, I think Mufti Mungera, was saying that he has already discussed 1,000 problems. What about the 1,000 problems that don't exist today? How are you going? Are you training for? If an imam cannot be able to solve a problem in 10 years' time, he's irrelevant. He's irrelevant. People will bypass him and go and find the solution somewhere else. Are we training our imams to solve problems that don't exist today? The greatest invention is that solves problems. People are only going to imams for seeking advice on problems. They don't go to imams otherwise. If you can't solve their problems, where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? They're going to go on the internet. Are we developing adapted intellects or intellectual tools to absorb new ideas and blend them for the future use? Darul Ulooms are training people about historical texts and historical pre-context. To survive in the future and be relevant to the fastest growing population, which is young Muslims, you have to solve problems that don't exist today. And if those imams do not have the intellectual tools, they don't have the accessibility to the right knowledge, accessibility to the right environment to experiment, those people will not be able to survive within that field. Young Muslims will be going elsewhere. What are the key global trends that are going to impact the Muslim community and the world at large and Islamic leadership? Quickly, scarce resources and climate change, rapid urbanization, shifting global economic powers, technological breakthroughs and demographic shift. Brother Atif Imtiaz talked about demographics. Demographics are critical now to decision makers. We have a brother from Ilm to Amal, fantastic piece of work, looking at how to apply Islamic knowledge to contemporary society and getting young people to understand their knowledge. How are you going to deal with the next generation? Generation X, forget them. Most of you are Generation X, unfortunately. Okay? Policy makers are not thinking for Generation X. They're only thinking about Generation X in terms of whether the state can afford your pension. Unfortunately. Okay, I don't want to be too pessimistic. You've still got life. Okay, I'm part of this generation. I'm going to make sure I've got something to contribute. Millennials, they're alive today. What are millennials doing now? What are they reading? What are they talking about? What are they listening to? Who is shaping? When you talk about leadership, leaders are leading these people. Okay, they are leading their thoughts, their opinions, their processes, their behaviors. But the key is Generation Z. Generation Z is who you should be thinking about. Generation Z has all the books that you see in Darul Uloom. I think Dr. Musharraf was touching on it. You know, when I wrote this book, now it's going to be released by Google, it's funded by Google, Muslim Citizens Guide. I went to the Muslim kids, I said, who is the most trusted person that you can go to that you believe all the time? Guess who they mentioned? Who's the person that you trust the most, you like the most, you will go to whenever you have a problem? Who is that person?
Ed Sheeran.
Huh?
The mother.
Brother says the mother, you're saying?
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran? Who? It's Google. All the children said we trust Google. We trust Google more than our children, or more than our parents. If you want to know something, where do you go? Google. And where do they go? They go on their phones. How are you going to circumvent, how are you going to come between Google as an imam, between them and Google? How? What have you got that's going to inspire them to come to you? This is just quickly the facts. This is the facts from last week. 7.5 billion population, 4 million already internet penetration, 3 billion online, 5 million devices already, 5 billion devices already in the field. All the information in Darul Uloom, every single book, every single verse, every single ayat is online. You don't need to go and talk to a person. What does it say in that book? What value add are you going to bring that goes past this stuff? This is internet penetration 2030. The reason I got this is that the majority of the Muslim countries that have low penetration, that need to go to imams physically, in 10 years time, the internet usage and access to information is going to be even bypass parts of Europe. So imams who think people are going to come to them to engage with them to talk about issues, people are going to be discussing with the imams online that can solve their problems without even leaving their bedroom. The world is changing so fast. I think Sister was saying that during her chaplaincy, she's seen it all over past 30 years. They're saying that the development, these are just some of the platforms that young people, you can't see this slightly pixelated, nearly 200 application, apps, devices young people are engaging with now to access information to help them to make a decision. These applications are leading behavior. Data is the new oil. Data is the new oil. People are going to fight wars on data. Presidencies have changed. Global powers have shifted. Trump's won elections. Russia's interfered in elections. People have interfered with data, understood data. Brexit happened. Who saw the drama that was released 2 weeks ago on Brexit? Did you watch it? Clear cut. They understood what people are watching, what people are thinking, what people are doing, target the message. Which imam is using that strategy? Which Muslim institution is using that strategy? Minds are shifting. People are shifting opinions, not in decades. People are shifting opinions in minutes. You have to compete with that moving force of opinion shaping and opinion forming. Personalized medicine. People talk about personalized medicine from a medical point of view. I'm talking about personalized medicine from a scholastic point of view. When people come to you, are you giving a bespoke, personalized Islamic idea and opinion, or are you regurgitating old text that was contextual 1,000 years ago? Personalized, people looking for personalized, value-added solutions. Imams that I know that are offering personalized, contextual, relevant Islamic ideas are making six-figure salaries. Contextualized within Quran and Sunnah. Six-figure, they're not poor, they're very rich people, because if you look at Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, when they died they left huge amounts of money behind. Why? Because they were great businessmen and people valued their knowledge. It wasn't regurgitated knowledge. It was knowledge that basically helped people out. This is just some of the key other areas that are basically changing people's lives and happening now. The key issue, artificial intelligence. If an imam just picks up a book and reads Quran and gives a fatwa based upon what's written in the book, that information will be done by a virtual imam. You can go onto I've met brothers who have got, like Brother Mufti Mangera was talking, they've come up with 1,000 answers. So have you seen those pop-up windows at the bottom? Would you like to chat? Those are virtual machines. There are virtual imams already ready to answer. But just imagine if those imams are controlled by a government, or controlled by an agency, or controlled by a third-party organization that wishes misharm. Would the young person know whether they're talking to the right person or not? Yes or no? It's happening now. These formulas are happening. So basically the question I'm asking, what pace are we moving? Sister Shuruk was talking about Ghazali and what they thought of him then, and we're still talking about Ghazali now. What are the Ghazalis for the 21st century? Somebody talked this, inshallah we're making incremental change. If you do incremental change, you're going to be finished. If we're working at a glacial pace, the world's not working at glacial pace anymore. You'll be melted before you start thinking about the next step. Just quickly, if I may, evolving leadership, I'm going over my time, forgive me. Key ingredients for the future, empathy. I think Sister Mariam was talking about it earlier. Empathy, experience, and experience does not mean that all your hair on your beard has to be white and you're 60 years old and you're walking with a stick. That's not experience. Some 25-year-olds, the head of Google, head of Facebook are in their 40s. Senior executives in Elon Musk's organization, key bankers are in their 30s. The Prime Minister of England, the Chancellor of Exchequer in the last government were in their 40s. People have access to knowledge, can lead at an early age. And there's historic examples of the Prophet's time and during the Ottoman time and great civilization where young people were leading. Second quick point, the next key challenge for Imams, intersectionality. Key critical point. How are Imams going to deal with power, with politics, and their faith? Imams and people in leadership get criticized for knocking on the door of 10 Downing Street. They get criticized if they go to the Home Office. They get criticized if they go on a Foreign Office delegation to a third country. If you're a leader, leadership wants to talk to you. If you're a leader, other leaders want to talk to you. And if you're a leader with values and you have value to add, they're going to knock on your door. They won't invite you. They say, we want to come and talk to you. How does the Muslim leadership, if it's going to be relevant and be seen as part of the ingredients in this society, how is it going to have confidence to deal with that? Second, quickly, the point of controlling information, controlling access to the media and access to resources. Three critical areas of what Islamic leadership, Islamic faith leadership needs to be aware of. My time is running out. I've talked a lot about this area. Leading is different. Guiding is different. Advising is different. Some of these people in this picture are advising presidents and prime ministers. Other people have social media presence bigger than countries. Some of these people, thousands upon thousands of people listen to them, and they didn't even step one day in a Darul Uloom. They have no qualification from an Islamic university, but their influence is greater than any imam around them. Because it's access of knowledge and applying that knowledge and interpreting it for the contextual times of which they're talking about and where they're talking. Very important. We have to decide. Third point, quickly, is access, distinction, and value add. Access, my feeling at the moment from my observation of traveling around the world, If you have a conference, I'm starting to see now the majority of the people listening in the audience are women. Women are going to shape the future of Islamic discourse in UK. They're not coming out, but they are studying, they are interpreting, they're empathetic, they're offering value, they're approachable. Women are beginning to make a difference very quietly. Very quietly. But it's going to come, there's a tipping point, it's going to happen. A tipping point. In America, it's already started. In Indonesia, it's already started. A tipping point will occur. Okay? And the community will embrace it, because what they're offering is very refreshing. Because the people that they're talking to, their hearts are suffering. Young people's hearts are confused. Young people are crying in their bedrooms, deeply disturbed, they're deeply frustrated. They're looking for guidance and they're struggling. But when a woman comes and holds them and embraces them and says something that touches their heart, you see a transformation. Women are going to make a big part. And women are accessible. Accessibility is changing the name of the game. People thought in our days, if you're slightly reserved, you don't show your eyes, and you're not accessible, you're someone great. Forget that. If you close the door now, young people, there's 10 other doors open. And they're going in those doors. Okay? Specialization. Imams and al-imams that are specializing, I think Atif talked about it. This concept of becoming deep and specialized in specific areas, those people are going to be super successful. Generalists are not going to survive long term, they're not going to have a following. Specialized people are going to have a deep following, and they're going to and those are the people that are going to add value to the conversations that people are desperately seeking. That is the future for survival, and in the next 20 years, I feel the environment actually is very, very vibrant. There's some, like Shamsul Duha, I consider him as in technical terms, they call him a disruptor. He disrupted in 2001. When did you start your 2003. That's more than a decade ago. You need to move on. You know, the thing is, but you are, mashallah, what Shams is doing, I see his work and he's constantly trying to innovate, learn correct, which is fantastic. But with artificial intelligence, data gathering, social media penetration, internet penetration, smartphones becoming even more smarter, the access to knowledge becoming more democratized, Imams have to rethink what the future 21st century, 2030, 2030 Imam is going to be like, and what is he or she going to do. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.